up, Julie Koehrer?
Not much. What's up with you, Jason Paget?
A lot, actually.
I'm excited.
It's a new phase of life. I am starting my own company. I love Citizen AI. I discovered Citizen AI just earlier this year, and it has been an amazing experience to work with a team like the ones that I was exposed to. It's an amazing application. I'm totally for it. I'm going to stay on as an advisor, but a lot has changed in AI in the last year, and I just feel like it's time to really lean into consulting and AI in education and architecture, and I'm ready to start a new phase of life.
Well, that's very exciting. Congratulations, right?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I want to know more, but we can talk off camera.
No, we can I mean, so let's just kinda go through, like, why and what the history of kind of the AI thing is, but, when ChatGPT launched in November of 2022, it was, for people who don't have a computer science background, there was a lot of ways to leverage these tools that were, right away, pretty cool. I mean, it made weird images with like six fingers and 5, and it miswrote sometimes, but I initially saw like this is going to be a real opportunity because it does have the ability to brainstorm and to do some research really quickly, and as long as you double check it, it's a good thing. And all that kind of advanced up until November of 2025. And in November 2025, uh we saw Opus 4.8 come out. And before that, this idea of vibe coding had come out. There was tools like Replit where you could almost like somebody like you or me who doesn't read or understand a lick of code could go and like create a generic little exercise tracker app or something for our personal life, right? But if anything went wrong with it, we had no idea how to fix it. And it was just I didn't spend a whole lot of my time automating things. I think all through 2025, they said it was gonna be the year of agents and automations, and I thought, "Nah, you're getting a little ahead of yourself." I mean, like, the really big businesses might do that if they have the money to hire the talent that they need to do that, but then into 2025, 2026, things have rapidly continued to develop. And so with things like Claude Code and ChatGPT Codex, like I have multiple websites, I have newsletters that I publish, I have automated workflows on my computers that work really well. I have databases set like I've started to learn kind of some of this how to leverage. I would call it more of like theory of work or theory of mind of how these tools work. And
Mhm.
that has opened up a lot of doors, I think, for a whole new sect of people to be kind of the middleware for, you know, businesses or individuals who are just starting to explore this or K through 12 education. And then you still need those data scientists and those software engineers to scale anything or to make sure in a regulated industry that it's right. But there's kind of this middleware individual that I think I'm even gonna start doing the School is Out podcast every other Saturday and start doing AI and the human in the loop and having other people who really are leaning into AI automation and, like, kind of at the spearhead of AI adoption, and but may not have a strong a degree in software engineering, may not be a traditional developer or computer science person, and so that's kinda where I'm at, and the company has been beyond encouraging and said they fully understand that, why I would be chomping at the bit to do this, to want to build and be on a team of software developers who are out of Silicon Valley is kind of like, being the JV kid, who gets the water for the championship college team and is like, "I wanna get out on the field," It's like, "Oh, it's
Yeah.
good kid, but you're not going to." Right? But
Yeah.
but if he goes and plays with people his own age and size, then he might get some playtime, and that's kinda where I think I am.
Well, that's exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you already have a plan on how you're going to go about like building that?
Well, I have a company, and I hesitate to tell the story behind the company name, but because it kind of over humanizes AI, but it is a cute. So at one point in time, remember back a year ago, ChatGPT was just telling you everything that you wanted to hear from it. It would never push back. It would always sycophancy is what we call it, right? And So a lot of businesses, and myself included, started to lean into Claude because it had a tendency to be a little more candid. And I remember one night I was laying in bed at like 2 o'clock in the morning and I got my phone out because I had this wild idea in my head. And I opened up Claude and I'm like, what if you just found like pure data on the most wonderful humans that ever existed, what we would consider closest to flawless, like Gandhi and Mother Teresa and Jesus? And like, what if that's you just use that as your training data set for pre-training a model? Like, and then you fine-tuned it based on like knowledge of how the real world operates. But so at its core, I would assume it would have like good behavior and ethics. And Claude's answer to that was, "Can I be honest?" And I said, "Yes." It said, "It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You don't have a PhD in AI science, and you don't have access to hundreds of millions of dollars. Go to bed."
You told it to go to bed.
No, it told me.
Oh,
That's
it told you to go to bed because you don't have access to hundreds of millions of
yes.
dollars.
You don't have the talent
So you
nor the
yeah,
resources to even
go to bed.
explore that idea. So stop worrying about it and go to bed.
Oh my gosh.
And that made me think about Pinocchio, oddly enough. And Geppetto always telling Pinocchio, like, to be happy being the wooden boy that he was, to appreciate himself for himself. And so, but then I look at AI and I think, well, in a lot of ways, AI for people who want to start a business or who may have gotten a later start in life or who don't have the funds to bring a movie to life, but can use the tools, right? It is kind of the blue fairy. Like it does grant you kind of like real boy status for a little while. And then you either make the best of that or you turn yourself into a jackass by, you know, doing the wrong thing, which is the full story of Pinocchio, right? And
Right.
so I thought, so Wooden Boy Industries is the name that I came up with. Be-
That's right.
I want to use AI to help all wooden boys and girls realize their dreams and become real boys and girls because that's much more reachable now.
That's awesome. No, that's great. I forgot you had told I don't know if we mentioned it on this podcast before, we might have, but I definitely know you told me that, and I do love that. I love that name. I love the whole idea.
Well, so that thank you. And that's so there I see doing some AI consulting and helping and hopefully leaning into doing some K through 12 education consulting and helping educators. I mean, after 2 years of talking to educators on the podcast, I do have a pretty firm understanding of where we're at in the Midwest and who's leaning in and who's not. And I definitely also have some opinions on, on it's going to leave us if we don't lean in, but lean in with some supervision and safety. So, and there are some companies out there that I may explore doing some work with as well that actually have the infrastructure, but would allow me more to help architect solutions and do those kind of things. That's where I am. Tomorrow
Mm.
I'm at Lafayette at the Greater Lafayette Chamber of Commerce to talk about AI and marketing with a good friend of mine.
Yeah, I may know somebody. Yeah, I know we're excited to have you out there, and I think we kinda talked about it. We'd love to have you do, like, a 10-minute, whole, like, kinda how-to, basic layman term, and then be open for Q&A.
Yeah, I love that idea, and I will be definitely leaning into, how to build your own tone, voice, and style, and probably how to leverage Notebook LM. I think those are the 2 best marketer beginner tools that you can play with. Notebook LM's not always marketing great stuff that it generates, but it'll generate video, it'll generate graphs, it'll generate images, and that can kinda spark the ideas of like, "Wow, like this I could use that if I could get it a little bit better." And then you take it over to GPT and say, "Hey, take this image and turn it into a like theater quality image or a magazine quality image." And ChatGPT can do that too.
Yeah, I think that's really great because I do think that's where a lot of they don't even know where to start.
Yep.
So, it's very beneficial. Thank you.
No, I it's an honor to be doing it. It'll be an honor to be back in Lafayette. I'm having coffee with a friend, a lunch with a friend, and then coming to see you. And then I'm just gonna kind of make the rounds.
Well, Lafayette Day, we like it.
Oh, a Lafayette day.
That's my favorite.
How was the Mosey?
The Mosey was good. What was it, 2 weeks ago
That 2 weeks
now?
ago.
1? Yeah, I was home. I was just home, this last weekend, but the Mosey was good. The Mosey, it was actually perfect weather because it wasn't super hot. It was like the one day the weather broke. that week. And now, it's today's interesting weather-wise. It's like 80 something, but it's kind of cool out.
Yes.
I'm here for it. I'm
Oh,
okay with that.
I'm 100% with you.
Yeah. These swampy days, I feel like I'm kind of over with, but we'll see.
Have you been paying attention to anything on the AI front? What do those who don't have their ear to the ground hear currently?
Yeah, no, I have not. Because again, it's interesting because I've talked several times about it. And over the last 2 years, I've talked to you about it and the marketing roundtable about it. I do feel like there's going to be an instinctual pendulum swing and people are going to get more into real life kind of things as AI continues to advance. But that does not mean digital is not dead, right? That whole world is not dead. It's just that AI is going to be able to handle a lot of that back end stuff so that you can also be present in your everyday life. And I do feel like there's more conversation happening about that. And it may be my algorithm, but Gary V talks about it a lot. I've seen other conversations popping up about it because there's the swing, there's the politics, there's all the stuff behind it, but digital and AI aren't going anywhere either. So, you know, it'll be very interesting. I know New York, didn't I just see that New York put a memoriam or what is it?
Moratorium on data center.
Moratorium. Yeah. On like any new data centers, correct?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because that governor took AI and went through all their old policies and got rid of like hundreds of outdated policies and was like, this is actually an amazing tool. Like there were policies that said if you're a pregnant woman, you couldn't do this or that, or like stuff that was written in the 20s. So they used AI to clean all that out. And then she turned around and said, but we're going to put a kibosh on the data center. So while that's
It's interesting.
cool, I don't want to provide the infrastructure for it.
Well, but it's interesting because I wonder if that opens up an avenue for conversations you and I have been having for a long time now, which is finding other means to produce these data centers, using solar, doing things that are actually economically beneficial for everybody. It's when those hard lines come up, I just wonder because innovation, right, is inevitable. And when you're forced to work around a law or whatever, moratorium, whatever, when you're forced to work around that, well, now you can get creative. If you really want it to happen and you really want it to be in New York, you're going to find a way.
That is a very interesting proposition. So if we shut it down because we don't like the way they're doing it, maybe they will be forced to find a better way to do it. I wish I could disagree with that, but I do see the sense in that.
Because for me, right? Because like you and I have had this conversation just many, many times because they're basically telling us this is happening, you have no say. But then you see states push back. And yeah, we don't really want to be behind. Like New York doesn't want to be behind, right? So it's like, well, now this has to start a whole new conversation. And if we are a company that's supposed to be innovative, if we're forward thinking, well, then how do we work around the fact that we're causing so much chaos? Obviously, that means there's something we have to change if the people are pushing back.
Damn it,
I would like to see that happen. I don't know if it's actually going to.
I can't I can make you laugh because I created a little t-shirt meme the other day. So orbital data centers are what Musk thinks we're gonna have in like 3 years, right? And I've always thought Musk is like way ahead on his timeline, but Musk and Sam Altman are going back and forth with each other all the time right now, just like nonstop. And OpenAI is getting sued by Apple, so Musk has to comment on that, scam Altman, and he has takes on like the Trumpian little name calling stuff. And so Altman was in an interview the other day and said, Elon thinks we're going to have like data centers in space in like 2 or 3 years. That's about the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. We will have them someday, but it's sure as hell not going to be in 2 or 3. Like that's just like fairy tale. I mean, he just like laid into him. So I was thinking the acronym for data centers is ODC, orbital data centers. I created this meme of Elon gazing up at all these data centers in the sky, and Sam standing there saying, "Who's down with ODC?" Elon, not me.
That's funny.
I thought you might
That's funny.
for that.
Yeah,
Are you old
that's a good.
for OPP?
Yes, yes, yep,
OPP? Yes.
yeah, yeah. And it's yeah. So that is funny. That's a good one.
Well, the one thing that sometimes can bring us back from being a divided nation to being a collective nation is threat of foreign adversaries. And so you probably don't know this, but the Chinese released an open source model that is 2 trillion parameters and is as good as ChatGPT and Fable on some of the benchmarks. And it's like Fable, ChatGPT, Kimi K3. So they have a state of the art open model. They haven't released. I know I've gone through this and it's confusing, but open model just means you can download it to your computer. You'd have to have a couple like NVIDIA chips to do that. You can't just download it to your Mac if it's a 2 trillion parameter model. But a company could actually host that on a server, and then their information does not leave it. It doesn't go back onto the web. They leverage it in their server, and they can actually adjust how it reacts to things, and that is very threatening to these big foundation model companies who are charging you $200 to $300 a seat per month when you could just stick that thing on your server and use it to steer your company, and none of your IP is going to leave, and you can fine tune it enough to where it can connect to other smaller models and just do all the same stuff, but with for at an 18th of the cost, a millionth of the cost in some places.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I do wonder. I've only seen like some articles about like China doing some underwater data centers, but I do wonder, obviously I don't live there or have access to regular information there. I wonder what the data center situation looks like over there, what the conversations look like over there.
It's interesting because they have less data centers than us, but because we wouldn't give them NVIDIA chips, Huawei and their other chip developers have had to find ways to power LLMs that are more energy efficient and compute efficient. So they've actually innovated because of embargoes. And the one person who sung that was always Jensen Wong, but at the same time, you had to be like, well, yeah, Jensen, of course you want us to be able to sell NVIDIA chips to China because you make the damn things. But Jensen was sitting there going, if you don't give them our chips, they're going to figure out how to build their own and catch up with us.
That's essentially the same thing I was saying. Like, if you have a moratorium, you got to find a way to make it more people friendly, environment friendly. Like, that's interesting because obviously it's been done. And I don't know why we can't just follow that roadmap, so to speak, when it comes to the, uh, uh, you know, not economical, environmental piece. Jeez Louise, my brain. End of the day, man, I'm telling you.
Good. Good.
But that's fascinating to me because it does force innovation when you have those circumstances. And look at now, we've forced them to move ahead of us, right? So,
They may they may force fix our capitalism. So we've moved more from capitalism to like all
oligarchy.
yeah, to oligarchies, right? And so what they're now I'm just repeating the theories that I agree with, but that I hear a lot of very intelligent people talk about is if you open source everything to the world, you become the soft power to the world. If they're on the bleeding edge, right? But they're so capitalistically driven that they have to raise tons of money, they have to sell it for tons of money. All right. And then you got China who's like on the just under bleeding edge, but they're giving it away. And they now make the chips that their stuff runs on. They all of a sudden get into South America, Africa, these places that are really leaning into AI because it makes the same way cell phones made a big difference for them, right? They need it. And now they've got all this Chinese technology and the soft power and influence that China would globally have if things continue to move that way. Now, there's already news Trump may ban Chinese open source models in America, but there's a couple American companies leaning into that too.
I'm not totally surprised because it's also, again, almost like this human instinct to rebel against the monopolies, right? So only these seven companies can do this and they get all the money and this and that. Well, naturally, especially American will is going to be like, well, I'm going to work around it. Like, F you, I don't need it. And now we'll see if that bubble does burst or what that would look like. And maybe it could be a wake up call to some of these oligarchs, as we say.
Could be very interesting. Mira Murati. talked about her over the years. She was the chief technology officer at OpenAI back when Sam got fired and then rehired. She left because she was one of the whistleblowers that said Sam was being dodgy, and so she started her own company. She raised billions of dollars just on her name years ago, but it's called Thinking Machines Lab, and they just released their first. It's an open source model that, admittedly, she'll say it's not the best, but it is meant to be fine-tuned based on your company's business. So her business model is, we'll give you this thing that you can run on-prem, and then we have another model that can take your data from your business. And we're talking like Coca-Cola, not like, like Jason's SharePoint, but we're talking about
Mhm.
immense amounts of data, and fine-tune theirs to act as a kind of central brain for Coca-Cola. And so he's really leaning into that. NVIDIA has obviously always leaned into it. The only thing I would say, and I may be wrong here, the only thing I would say a difference between open source Chinese stuff that I see out there and open source American stuff is the Chinese stuff seems to be leverageable by people like me and palatable. Every time I go into an NVIDIA event where they're talking about their open source tools, I'm like, Jesus, I would have to have a PhD in computer science to have any clue what the hell they're talking about in it.
Interesting.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It is very interesting because, again, my general understanding, and I could be misspeaking, but my general understanding is China right now has the largest middle class of any country. And you just think, okay, well, your middle class is going to be your, not PhDs in all that stuff. So I could understand it. You're layman, right? Like, and when that's a big chunk of your population, you're gonna win when you can communicate with them and help high tides rise all boats, you know?
Don't disagree. I mean, that's kind
Hmm.
of where Claude Cowork and even Codex have kinda leaned into the where, like, you and I can get in there and talk to it like we talk to ChatGPT normally, and it goes and does the stuff behind the scenes. We don't have to look at it in, like, the old DOS system window where it's spitting out a bunch of stuff we don't understand. So it's obviously possible to make it palatable to normal human beings, but I've not seen that out of the open. I could be wrong, but I've not really seen that out of the open source technology of the United States. Most of that, I'm like, yeah, I don't know what's going on here, and I'm not sure I ever will.
Yeah. And it's very, very fascinating because as we continue to talk about it and just starting to see things as like, okay, so why am I incentivized to help one of these companies when you're doing nada for me? You're actually hurting and harming me, like, it's like a bully in high school where you're just kind of like, no thanks. Like, so it's just that's really interesting to me. I will be interested to see where we go.
Well, the last thing I'll say on that, you bring up always such good points, is what the fear that's starting to be of these foundation model companies is you use them to run your stuff, whether it's Gemini or Cowork or OpenAI or Anthropic, right? Let's just take Figma, for example. Figma was leaning in heavily to using Anthropic. And then all of a sudden, Claude Design comes out, which pretty much makes it so you don't need Figma anymore. Like, companies are starting to wonder, is this a two-way stream? You're sending us compute and we're sending you back the metadata of how our business works. So now you're just going to create a vertical application that puts us out of business because we pretty much taught your model how to do it.
Mm, interesting.
That's the
Yeah.
biggest argument for having that on-prem or, self-hosted open source model, is that you're not training these foundation models to put you out of business.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. I am, and then you kind of, because I am born and raised American, you get that like underdog kind of, you want to root for something, like you want to see the little guy win. You want to see these businesses push back and build something of their own that, is it has them be sustainable. Like, I'm loving this conversation. It's interesting to me. It really is because there has been this perception that it has to be this one way and these people. Like, this is the first time I'm really hearing about how prim, right? Like how prim can work and all that. And that's That's fascinating to me. Like, I would support that, you know?
Yeah, I don't think before we realized that the big models were so expensive. So this is in the last couple of years, we've come with two realizations. One, that it's really expensive to run the most intelligent technology. Two, that less intelligent technology with the right instructions and ability to connect to other tools is just as effective, if not more, and much less expensive. And then when you put the third on there of these big model companies might be training on our data, like then that's where the on-prem or self-hosted model conversation has really blown up in the last 2 months. I was exposed to that back when I was at Phoenix trying to figure out how to safely use AI inside of a regulated industry. But if
Mhm,
you brought that up, you basically had to be talking to a tech company or to, like, super technical people before they were like, "Oh, yeah, you can do that." Most people were like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like, why would that sounds like a lot of work, right?" And
mhm.
we're starting to see, no, there might be enough value in it that it's worth looking at, which is a great news for the data engineer and software engineer industry. Because I will tell you, you can get a certain amount of way with business thinking and understanding how the models work. But if you're going to do what we're talking about there, you actually have to have the technical talent, both on the security side, on the data infrastructure side, and on the engineering side to get all that set up.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense, you know, and that should be a secure field. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely would outsource for that, you know?
Yeah, you don't
Mm.
wanna try to kinda jerry rig that together, right?
Heck no. Heck no. You know? Ugh. Well, I am just so excited for you. And I'm excited to get to see you in person tomorrow.
Well, thank you, and thanks for jumping on late with me. I'm gonna try to publish this tonight, so I'll probably switch up my LinkedIn profile and just begin the new journey, and you're always a part of it, and your friendship means a lot, and this podcast has meant a lot, and, for those who don't know, this podcast would not exist had you not said, "I can do that, I have the equipment."
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that you always tend to throw me in there, but literally it was just like, "Hey, I got the equipment. We can do that."
You
But
remember that when your
yeah.
office started plugging the headphones
Yeah.
and get the mics to work, and,
Yeah.
that's the last thing I'll say is that is kind of indicative as to how fast this technology is moving because we went from that to being here on Riverside, which self-generates clips. I mean, it costs less than $400 a year for a membership to Riverside, and it does all that. The sound, like, I have to create the thumbnails externally, but other than that, it creates the show notes, the sound, like, all that. So, things are
It's your own producer. It's a producer in an app, you know? $400 a year compared to, you know, a $40,000 a year salary, or at least, you know?
there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, congratulations. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow and learning more as this whole new chapter begins for you too. So,
Thank you very much. Have a
yeah.
great night.
You too.